Hello, I'm Dave Feinlieb, and this is Beyond the Shelf. This show is an open exploration of the people and process behind e-commerce. Through conversations with innovators in the space, we learn the stories of these leaders and their strategies for e-commerce success. You can learn more about how we're helping leading brands and retailers build content at scale and take advantage of our free content health audit at itsrapid.ai. My guest on today's show is Harvey Ma. Harvey is a 20-year business executive with a background in leading international teams across businesses in retail, manufacturing, engineering, and telecommunications. He currently serves as Vice President, Albertsons Media Collective. Prior to that, Harvey was Senior Vice President for Omni, Consumer and Retail Performance at Nielsen IQ, leading overall portfolio strategy, as well as Head of Sales and Marketing at Roundel, the in-house marketing and advertising agency for Target Corporation. Outside of work, Harvey serves on the board of directors at Free for Life International, an organization dedicated to eradicating human trafficking across the world. We discuss Harvey's role at Albertsons Media Collective, his insights on retail media, and what he's focused on over the next year and beyond. Please enjoy my conversation with Harvey Ma. Harvey, so great to see you.
Thank you for having me, Dave. It's so great to be here.
Tell us about you. You're a very understated guy. You've had an incredible career. Tell us a little about how you got your start and how you work with clients.
I got my start in retail media when I was a merchant at Target. And the first time they asked me to do the online vendor marketing job, very different than what the industry now calls retail media, my questions were, you want me to do digital marketing? I've never had a digital position and I've never done a marketing job. But fast forward to today, the things that we built and learned as we were navigating that ecosystem together are what got me started within the retail media industry.
I want to ask you one follow-up question, if you'll indulge me on that. A lot of our guests will tell me from time to time, someone gave them their first chance. And if you're someone looking for your first chance, what is it that that person who hired you, what do they look for? What do they see? Or what do you see when you're looking and you're giving someone their first chance when they haven't necessarily done the job before?
Funny you asked that question, Dave. We actually went on a mission this year when we were recruiting new talent to the collective. A lot of that was we posted a few positions that required zero retail media expertise. A lot of that came from the passion from the leadership team to build out what we call diverse talent. And diversity, Dave, doesn't just mean race, religion. What we thought was, what about somebody who has wanted to work in this industry but has never had a chance to learn about retail media and doesn't know where to start? Or how about an industry executive who has done 20 years in the business but has never gone to this part of the retail industry? How do we give them a chance? More importantly, Dave, what about a mother who took some time off from the corporate workforce but has had a hard time finding their way back? How about giving them an opportunity to work in what we think is the hottest topic in retail? And Dave, we actively went and recruited for folks that did that. And I'm very proud to say that we have folks on our staff right now that fit those three profiles. For myself, Dave, I would say the superpower that I believe Target leadership saw in me was just the ability to ask the question, why? And the why was to not settle for the status quo. And when I say why, it's not just the first why, it's the second why, and the third why, and the fourth why, until there's nowhere to go other than to say, okay, I get it. We will try something new and different. But I believe, Dave, that's the profile that we're also looking for here at Albertsons Media Collective.
I want to ask you about this question, why. I think some of us find that a really hard question to ask because it feels we're questioning something that is a certain way. What gave you that confidence to not only ask it the first time, but keep peeling back the onion, if you will? And it's something that I think is really hard to do no matter where you are in your career.
I don't know if it was confidence so much as just survival mode. There was really nowhere to go. Dave, when I started with that business, all in, it was $12.5 million, all in. Um, when you think about that, there's nowhere to go but up. We had this website, we had this online, what we called portal. It was actually not even Target's own portal, it was actually on AWS at the time. And so you've got this really massive opportunity, and there's nowhere to go but up. And so asking the questions why was more about, I'm not going to let excuses for why things have been hold us back from what I think could be in the future. But I don't know if it was confidence per se. It felt like it was more just trying to break through excuses for why things hadn't worked the way they had been, and then pioneering a new future.
It's such a great approach to looking at the business and then helping the people and the business scale. So it's really, really incredible. Now you're at Albertsons Media Collective. You're doing some, again, amazing work there. Tell us about Albertsons Media Collective, and if you would, about the name. It's obviously really unique in the space.
Wow, Dave, I wish we had a week to talk about it, because the collective is such a special place and built with very special people. It all starts with Christy Argilon, who is our senior vice president, and we call her the queen of media because everybody across the media ecosystem knows who Christy is, but she is our fearless leader. Evan Havorka is our vice president of product, and he is in charge of making sure that all of those innovative ideas clients come up with are enabled and brought to life throughout products at the collective. All of us came from other Fortune 50s and had built RMNs in our past. So just think about the network that we have and the knowledge that we have from building this in an era that it was still a fairly new thing. This late mover advantage, as Christy likes to say, is really our competitive advantage. What we always like to say is we know almost what not to do this time because we've made all the mistakes before in the past. But the great thing is that, Dave, because we built this network with so many advertisers and so many third-party partners, they all know who we are. And so many of them are like, okay, we know a lot of RMNs are being built right now with retail. We know they're trying to do this thing. You've already done that thing. So what could it look like if we did it differently? Oh my goodness, Dave, it is such an exciting place to be. And then all the talent we hire, they have that same thirst and that same hunger. And the name really comes from, it is a collective, not just a media collective. It's an enterprise collective. We show up to our meetings with the enterprise in mind. In fact, many of our advertisers listening, they know that when we come, we usually have a merchant there. We have someone from site team there. We'll have enterprise marketing there. We have our data teams there. This is really a push for Albertsons to not just build a retail media Me Too. It is really a collective that hopefully changes the face of what advertising could look like in the future, done ethically, responsibly, and privacy conscious.
This ability to bring all of those people to the room with the conversation with an advertiser and a brand, I feel that is truly unique. Talk to me about the prep when you're getting ready for that meeting with the partner and you have these folks data, and now you've got sales and you've got site merchants. How do you bring that together, not only to showcase the individual parts, but bring this as the greater Albertsons Media Collective opportunity?
That's exactly the magic. Because, Dave, it feels like historically, when I talk about what has happened traditionally within just marketing and advertising in general, it has been advertising or merchandising, data or conversion or awareness or whatever those things are, and they've been separated. The magic of this whole storytelling is that customers are buying things and looking at things and influenced by things and shopping for things in a much more different way than they've ever experienced in the past. And so there is no single point of data, nor conversion, nor impression driving awareness, nor influence behavior that can give you that full story. And so the more data points you have, the more attributes you have, the more signals you have, obviously the better that story becomes. And the great thing about that is, Dave, it's still all unique, right? Everybody in every state, in every banner, and how they shop, it's still very unique and personal. And that makes it very, very fun and exciting and also challenging.
And you've got, of course, I imagine these long-standing relationships. You've got folks who know the playbooks, which makes it super fun. Tell me about a day in the life, Harvey Ma. You get up, you've got this great group of experienced folks. What does that look like? Who are you talking to? How's it happen?
Dave, there's no normal day. I want to spend my time client facing because I believe that each brand, each advertiser, each client of ours, this is the best part of my job. I get to hear the most brilliant advertising plans from some of the biggest brands in the world. And again, I'm a sponge in those rooms. Really, if you think about my day, I'm a note taker. Dave, if you think about it, I impart less knowledge. I absorb more knowledge, and the ability to kind of take all of that and then formulate, I think, scaled strategies for brands and advertisers is really the uniqueness of the job. But Dave, I would say my day entails I wake up in the morning. I always watch the news because you got to know what's happening in the industry. And there's been a lot of news within marketing and advertising in general. And then you go through your financials. You've got to understand how things are performing. And that's not to talk about just revenue. What I talk about is how is our business, how's Albertsons performing? And then that kind of starts my day with usually what the topics of or hot topics that most brands will want to talk about. Because typically what they want to know is how their business is performing here. But Dave, ironically, of the 1,000 clients that we service, many of them don't sell product here because they want to understand customer behavior. They want to understand the future of advertising. They want to understand what screens might look like when they're sitting in the palm of your hand. There's a very, very different look and feel for what retail media use cases are. And my day is just shaped by what these clients are looking for.
You get to spend the time with the best and the brightest and learn, and then bring that back to them. So it's such a great perspective. Now, the flip side of that, of course, is you've got this great growth, this huge opportunity, not without some complexity. I've got multiple channels. I've got digital, to your points about earlier in your career. I've got out of home, in store. How should brands be thinking and advertisers be thinking about this wealth of opportunities that they have?
There's no one size fits all approach. What I would urge, though, as I've heard these stories from so many brands, is that make sure that the objectives that they're trying to build through a campaign, through a program, they match what you're trying to do and what you're trying to build tactically. That seems to be the biggest miss when we look at how advertising is actually functioning from a retail media standpoint. And I'm going to use a real-time example, Dave. So many brands have great intent in how to reach customers and start to observe how customers are engaging with their brands. But the output of every single campaign always goes back to ROI or ROAS. And my question back is, are you actually almost setting up your agency, your publisher, your partner, your retailer for failure? Because we make decisions based on how we think you're going to react. And a lot of that time is we want to make sure that our clients are happy. And if we know that they're only going to be happy because they see a positive number at the end of the campaign, it very well shifts the mix, the product, the strategy. And so when you ask that question, we talk about growth. We believe that growth will come when we do right by our customers through the right advertising. And the customers will ultimately vote by buying your stuff, whether it be at Albertsons or somewhere else. But if we all do that versus chase this kind of holy ROAS and IROAS number, the pie will start to grow and we will all benefit from that. But Dave, when we all just fight for monetization because who shows the best return is table stakes, the growth just doesn't get unlocked. And so I know I'm dodging your question a little bit, but it really does depend on the ethos of the brand and what they're trying to do.
And if you're a CMO, let's say, and you've got the metrics and ROAS and all of that, and you've got your creative and your visuals and your emotions, how do you navigate those two pieces? Because obviously your CFO wants to hear about the numbers. Tell me the ROI. And over here, you want to connect, to your point, with the shopper and build the brand and all of that. How do you think about that in this era that's so heavily digital?
This goes back to the point I made about that question of why. So many times I'll get a piece of creative or we'll get a strategy. And I try this with brands. It doesn't always work so well when you're not leading a team. But Dave, I'll say, why? Why does the creative look like that? What's the look and feel? And they'll say, well, this is a really successful campaign last year. And I'll say, but why? You are telling me you want to reach a new demographic, a new audience. So why are you taking the same look and feel that was successful last year? Because that seems like it was last year's KPI. And then they'll give me an answer. And then I'll say, but why? Why are we not trying to change things? And eventually, Dave, it usually gets to the point where it's just we want to lap results from the previous year. And Dave, that's a very different conversation. So I think there is a way to satisfy all stakeholders, but you just have to ground everybody in what that overall objective is. And I'm very happy to have that conversation with the CFO to say, you may not see the best return on that piece of investment this year, but I am going to show you some things that will make you a better and smarter marketer and advertiser. And if that's worth it for you, let's move forward. But if all you're looking for is that one single number, then we're going to build the campaign to that one single number. And it's a very different atmosphere in that type of a conversation, Dave.
Switching gears a little bit, at Albertsons Media Collective, to come back to that, you do have obviously a huge advertiser base, a huge reach. Talk to us about the size of the opportunity. If I'm an advertiser, I've got the conversations, I've got everyone on board, and we're ready to invest. What does that look like in terms of size and scale and reach?
So incredibly proud of this team and what we've built in literally about 11 months' time. The collective is only about a year and a half old now. What advertisers were familiar with before was most likely on-site display and sponsored search. Now, the size of prize and opportunity, I would say that anything you see on an Albertsons or a Safeway or a Jewel Osco site, both desktop and mobile, and any placement that you might have interest in off platform through a variety of different publishers, but now also, Dave, the in-store opportunity, both traditional and digital signage, not to mention other things like there are very unique sampling opportunities through direct-to-consumer, e-commerce. All of that now is available to you. One of the things I will urge your listeners is if this sounds interesting to you at all, we are very, very much, when I say late mover, we are not stuck in what we have built in our product portfolio in the past. If you can dream it, we are happy to sit and whiteboard it with you and build it. And a plug for Evan's Garage, which is an actual garage here in Minnesota. We have product folks led by Evan Havorka who will literally sit there and make that vision into a reality through a whiteboard session. And I think that's a big difference in what we're doing today versus what we've built in the past with other companies.
So the art of the possible, if I can put it into just a few words, is really, really an opportunity for these brands to work with you.
The art of the possible, and what we like to say is reimagining your growth future. And I think that's different because limiting yourself the tools that you have today, that's not what we're interested in. In fact, many of our third-party partners have heard me say, we're not interested in a Me Too model. We will build to table stakes for sure. And we actually have a term for it internally. We call it executing the brilliant basics. It's a term that Christy coined, but we'll execute that brilliantly. But the innovation track and how we differentiate and what we want to do for the industry, that's why we're all here, Dave. It's why the leadership team signed up for this. And we have an Albertsons SLT led by Vivek and our board that have given us free reign to do that. Boy, that is literally why we all signed on to do this job.
It's great. It's a rare opportunity to have it. So
it's a unicorn, Dave.
It's a unicorn. I'm super, super excited for you. Now, in our listener base, Harvey, we've got our retail media folks and we've got our digital shelf folks. And if you're working, let's say, with PDPs and images and product copy and things like that, tell us just about the practicalities. I want to advertise on site but I'm also got this offsite and audio and in-store. How does that work from just an operational perspective?
We have done things differently here that we feel like will help us scale and reach the intended objectives for a client faster. Meaning, in traditional RMN or advertising ecosystems, Dave, what happens is the advertiser, because of past performance, they tend to pick or cherry pick the things that they believe will work the best. For us, we are all about not just satisfying the client's objectives from an advertising perspective. We also want to make sure that we're driving as much traffic, as much of the advertising world to the customers relevant as possible. So what that means is for us is that we make a series of bundled suggestions. And oftentimes that word bundling comes with like a negative connotation. But the way we see bundling is that if we only keep inventory that's above the fold at a premium, and that's all people buy, then how will the customer ever get to some of those other areas of the site that are also equally compelling, but we're not driving them there and leading them there? And so we need the advertiser's help to help create that full funnel path to purchase. It's a little bit different. So when I say, creative spec, we've got a great tool we've built internally that actually we have very unique sizing for some of these new placements. We have a unique tool built by our product team that helps size what would be a traditional spec to some of our customized specs. But I would say this, going back to our earlier conversation, let us help you navigate how we believe the site here at Albertsons functions. And we'll also listen to your suggestions of how it functions off platform. But the marriage of those two things is what we think the future should look like. That's our overall objective.
I want to touch on one thing you said there, which is I've got my ads and I've got my site experience. And oftentimes these are maybe, let's say, a little bit in tension, with each other. Where's my ad happen? What about my shopper experience? You've got this ability to see across all of that. How do you think about that part of the shopper experience and the balance between those two areas?
Balance. You just said the word, Dave, balance. I have said before, when we get these same questions internally, well, Harvey, how much of the site should be monetized versus how much should be prioritized through customer experience? And my question is always returned with, well, a great customer experience, there shouldn't be a difference between what's monetized and what's a great customer experience, because quite frankly, they should be one and the same, not siloed. It's not a, do I get this ad paid for, or do I want to drive a great customer experience? In our minds, if the ad is served properly with the right content and the right offer, boy, that feels a lot like an organic experience too. And so we are trying to blend the two things together. And what I will tell you, Dave, the kudos to Albertsons as an organization is that the territorial nature of what's owned and then what's monetized, that wall is very, very, very low. There are still certain instances for sure where we know that organic traffic is going to be the dictator of kind of how we prioritize things. But the openness of leaders here to at least have the dialogue and conversation is unique to any other org that I've ever worked for in my career. Dave, that's why we are able to move so fast. We can't do this if our partners on the enterprise side don't allow us to do these. And right now, the friction is so low. They all want to do what's right for our customer. It's a very beautiful thing when the organization comes together in that way.
So if I'm a brand, I've navigated the experience, I've had my planning, my dollars conversation, and now I'm thinking about my game plan for the year. Seasonal, or do I invest a lot on certain moments? What are you seeing some of these brands do? You work across so many of these amazing advertisers. What are some of the best practices that you're seeing in the market?
Wow, I don't know if I want to give you all those secrets, Dave. I will tell you, there are some advertisers out there who are changing the nature for, I think, how traditional advertising is bought. And I think it's brilliant. I'm going to give you one example that your listeners, I think some may employ this, but they actually start scooping up much, much more traffic and ad placements during off-peak times, which is for larger CPGs, they always want to win the big seasons. But the thought and the notion is that there's so much competition and CPMs are so high during that time frame. What if we just let our organic traffic just go? But we focused on the off-peak times where we're going to just dominate and flood the marketplace as almost like a reverse option. Dave, we've seen some of that happen with some very, very strange but incremental results. I would also say just the nature for who they want to reach and the context for when they want to reach them. The new way of how to do things is so different than traditional media buying, which is I'm going to reach my most loyal, my most VIP, build my basket. It's almost like they've reimagined that and flipped it on its head upside down, starting all over from new customer acquisition all over again, which is important. I won't give all the secrets away, Dave, but if they're interested, give us a call. There are some really cool things happening out there that I think make traditional media buying, well, they're obsolete now moving forward.
Now, since you did share that, at least that secret with us, just to play it back to you for someone, at a brand that maybe wants to execute that. If I understand what you're saying right, I'm not giving up my big moments that I've got. I've got organic to help me go after that. I might still invest some ad dollars there, but perhaps there's another opportunity, and even a more cost-effective opportunity that happens in between some of those moments. And you're seeing it. So it's beyond kind of a leap to do that, but you're in this reimagining, I think, is really happening. And that's why you're excited about it.
It speaks volumes to when we talk about and hear the term, I'm going to build my RMN in-house. We always laugh because it's almost impossible for an RMN to fully build that in-house. There's not enough time, there's not enough talent, and there's not enough resources. And the reality, Dave, is there are a lot of third-party partners there that do it and have proprietary technology that will be better than we could ever code on our own. So what you're going to see from the collective, we actually take a portion of our in-house business that we've built in-house. We also have a very big piece of our business that we partner and source through third-party demand, because there are signals out there, Dave, that they can take advantage of that even flip our own model on its head. And so my push is, without sharing too much of the secret sauce, is that there are some really cool technologies out there. And I don't believe that any single RMN has this end-to-end answer for anything. You can actually take some really cool third-party signals, properties, and use them in a ways with existing RMNs to change your media buying strategy, content optimization, creative influence, targeting. It's a very cool dynamic right now that we live in.
And I think it is truly unlocked by your original question, which is why? Why are we doing it this way, or why has it been done that way? So I'm really excited to see how brands kind of partner with you and unlock this and put it to work. I think it's super interesting and differentiated. Before I let you go, tell me about what's on the horizon for you. You get to see the latest and greatest technologies. You talk about the advertising plans. You've got kind of this very unique view. What are the things you're kind of keeping your eye on over the next year and the next couple of years?
The space in general is starting to really fragment in terms of specialization. And in our eyes, there were a few different life cycles within RMNs that we have seen come and go. If you look at the first life cycle was that retailers understood they had this data, and retail media was really just, how do I monetize that data through advertising? That was first evolution. The second evolution is now these retailers are starting to see, what would happen if we act like a publisher? Would that be lucrative for us in the future? But the reality of it is, Dave, there are publishers out there that are so big, like they're not scared of that. And the media that we buy is the same media they can buy from anywhere else. So I do think the third evolution is really what we call this connected commerce total flywheel. And we can walk through the flywheel in more detail with customers or clients that are interested after this call. But I think what you're going to see is, outside of just advertising, it's what that whole connected ecosystem starts to look like when you start to pair merchandising with marketing, with data, with assets, with products in a perpetual flywheel. There are some out there doing it very, very well, Dave. And there are other RMNs out there who are still selling ads. And I'll be honest, the selling ads model, brands are tired of it. It's not just about selling ads anymore. So I think as you look at the future, where I'm excited is where these companies are starting to use the connected flywheel concept and what that looks like as a value add, not just an advertising engine for and on behalf of a retailer.
Well, Harvey, you and the team have built a tremendous platform and presence, frankly, in a very short amount of time. So kudos to the entire team there. Excited about the future success. Before I let you go, I've got a couple of fun closing questions I'd love to ask, which are, and I know it's hard to pick only two, but when it comes to your professional life, which two people have inspired you the most?
I gave this question a lot of thought, Dave, and you're absolutely right. It's impossible to pick two. So I'm going to dodge the question and talk about two moments instead. Moment number one, I was a young engineer and I had just been relocated to Minnesota. And I was asked my first week on the job to unload a trailer, which is 7,000 pounds of cylinders and medical industrial gas, 3 o'clock, 4 o'clock, 5 o'clock, 6 o'clock in the morning when they roll in. I was a college grad and wondered why I was working in my mind, a blue collar job with cylinder handlers early in the morning in the Minnesota cold. Dave, those cylinder handlers, warehouse workers, truck drivers at Praxair, they taught me the value of hard work. And they taught me that you actually learn more about your business touching cylinders on the back end than you will ever learn in a top to top with a client. And I'll never forget that moment. And so that, I think, has carried with me all throughout the rest of my career. Moment number two is just, as I'm sitting here talking to you, it's not lost on me that I get to do these fun podcasts. I get to go on stage and brag about the collective. There are hundreds of people on the collective and at Albertsons who have paved the way for me to do this. And they inspire me every single day. So I just hope for all of them that are listening that I'm making them proud and I guess expressing what we've been building in a way that makes them shine. But Dave, really, if I can just think about two bodies of people, it is really the folks I've had a chance to work with that have inspired me every single day.
I love it. Well, Harvey, you're an inspiring guy yourself. Tell us outside of work and what you've been able to do here and throughout your career. What do you like to do on the weekends and hobbies and when you've got some downtime, if you get some downtime?
Well, the number one thing is I love spending time with my family. And I know that that's the part of traveling a lot for work that you really take for granted, but I don't take that for granted on the weekend. So I love coaching hockey. My daughter plays volleyball. I don't know how to play volleyball. We watch YouTube videos together and I try to figure out how to properly set and spike. So if anyone listening wants to teach me some volleyball tips, I'd be all for it. It sounds cliche. We love to travel. There is so much of the world to see. We just booked a trip to Norway, Sweden, and Denmark, where my wife's roots are from. And so we're going to take them back to a farm that my wife's ancestry traces back to next year. But Dave, really, it's just all about spending great quality time here in Minnesota. There are, after all, more than 10,000 lakes here, and we just love to be outside. But anybody that wants to find me can usually find me doing something fairly active on the nights and the weekends.
Such a great breath, and it's so great to get outside, right? And just get the air and breathe and travel and see the world. Such great things to do and ways to connect. Well, Harvey, it's been an absolute pleasure. If folks want to get in touch with you, what's the best way for them to find you online?
So listeners should tune in and follow the Albertsons Media Collective LinkedIn page. We have an incredible PR and marketing team. They respond to comments and questions. We love the engagements, but Dave, all of that in terms of that content, they will find a way to find me. So I would encourage everyone to listen and follow to what we have going on. And we also showcase the latest in innovation. And Dave, a teaser, when you talked about new products on our roadmap, some very, very exciting announcements to come starting the beginning of the year at CES. So if that's not enough of a teaser for you, Dave, have them follow that page because they'll find the latest and greatest from the Albertsons Media Collective on the LinkedIn page.
So if I can sum it up, innovation and a way to ask why and keep asking why, because it's a great unlock. And at Albertsons Media Collective in particular, some really unique and compelling opportunities with an amazing team that you've all got there.
You nailed it. A+.
All right, perfect. Well, Harvey, such a pleasure. Thank you so much for taking the time to speak with us. I've really enjoyed our time together.
We did as well. Thank you for having me, Dave.
Thanks for listening to the show. If you like what you heard, please visit our website at itsrapid.ai, where you can find out more about how we're helping leading brands like PepsiCo save thousands of hours a year when it comes to retail media and digital shelf content creation. And don't forget to subscribe to hear more great episodes of Beyond the Shelf. See you next time.